I'm here with Ras K'dee. He's editor-in-chief of SNAG Magazine. That's 7th Native American Generation. And this magazine, there we go, you can hold it up. This magazine, it really gives Native youth the opportunity to address historical and modern grievances through art and writing. And first off, Ras, tell us about your magazine. What are you trying to accomplish with the magazine?
We recently started working with youth in about 2002, and we had a group of young people who were interested in making a newsletter. And so we came together with the ideas, and we started putting together a newsletter, and we ended up turning it into SNAG Magazine, and ended up being a really powerful tool to engage youth in writing and art and photography. Because they know that it's going to go into something bigger like a magazine, and they want to really get involved in it.
And what are some of the stories that Native youth want to tell today?
Like for instance, in this issue, we have all kinds of articles. Some youth, some of the young people who are writing about the oak trees, and there's a disease going on the oak trees, so there's some environmental issues going on in this issue. There's also articles in this issue from our youth, from SNAG youth, talking about the urban Native experience and what it's like to be urban Native youth. And we have articles from prison. We have articles from youth in Detroit at the American Indian Center, Detroit, talking about what it looks like where they come from. So we try to include different perspectives from youth from all over.
And you guys just got back from a delegation to the West Bank in Palestine. Talk about how you connected with Palestinians. Did you know before you left what was happening in the West Bank?
Well, it was a whole process. For about 2 years, we were kind of educating ourselves about the issues in the West Bank and Palestine in general. And we, in the process of educating ourselves, we wanted to go to Palestine and learn more about. All right. We wanted to learn more about what people are going through over there. Because one of the biggest reasons for me, my personal issue, my personal reason for going was, we always talk to our youth about the history and about indigenous genocide here. And there wasn't the UN back then. There wasn't an informed international arena to step in and say, hey, what you guys are doing to indigenous people in North America isn't right, and we want to step in and help out and prevent this from happening. So now we live in a global society, and we can be that wedge. We can be that generation of people that step forward and say this isn't right. We need to get.
What really stood out for you? I mean, for people who've never been to the West Bank but read about what goes on with the home demolitions, lack of access to water, just the fact that people have to go through multiple checkpoints, education system, the list goes on. What really stood out for you?
I think what stood out for me was that I think everyone individually has their own story. Especially you could just be walking down. I went one day and I was walking back from one of the workshops we were doing in Malata, the refugee camp in the north. And I was walking back, and one of the youth that I was with, he stopped at his neighbor's house and said, this guy's been shot. This little kid. He was maybe 7 years old. And he had been shot in the last siege in 2002. He must have been about 2 or 3 years old when he was shot. He had a huge scar down the back of his neck, and he could barely walk. And so, everywhere you go, everywhere you turn, even the bus driver had a story about how his land was taken and how he just wants to go home and harvest his olives. So everywhere you turn, there's a story, and I really connected to that, the individual stories, because I feel like a lot of times with indigenous people here, we also have stories and connections. Maybe something that happened to us directly, but maybe our mother or our grandparents were sent to boarding school. So there's always a story here with indigenous people here. So I really connected with those individual stories.
How do you plan to continue that relationship?
We're gonna keep up our work here. We're doing a lot of education around Palestine and connecting indigenous struggles here with issues over there, so people can kind of see the similarities. So we're doing a report back on December 11th in Oakland, Intertribal Friendship House, and as well well as like a big community event where we'll have traditional dancing from California Native dancers and intertribal dancers, and hopefully we'll be releasing a new issue of the magazine then as well. And we're going to keep doing education. We want to educate people on what we learned and what this process has been like for us, and then we're going to keep on doing like solidarity work with people in Palestine as far as providing them with media equipment, providing them with resources that we can bring from here.
And I'm sure probably every Palestinian you met, it was the first time, or most of them, first time that they've met a Native American.
A lot of them were some of them didn't know what to expect, and they didn't know that we were going to have such similar stories to tell from our families' histories and from our individual stories, and so a lot of them really were and there were some times that it got really personal, got really emotional, and I think they really a lot of delegations go to Palestine, kind of have their own agenda, or they want to go see someone that's impoverished or going through troubles and take pictures and then leave. But I think for our delegation, it was special for them. They really felt like really connected to our story as well.
Because you have such similar pasts. And then last question, Ras, at the Green Festival, do you feel like the environmental movement has reached out to natives and indigenous populations who've been doing this work for so long? I mean, I think it was Van Jones who said, this is not rocket science, we pretty much need to go back to our old days. I mean, we know it needs to be done because we've done it for centuries. But do you feel like you're part of the conversation?
I definitely do. We've been asked to speak at Pioneers too, and this is our first time speaking here at the Green Festival. But I feel like a lot of times tribes get excluded, and they're not brought to the table. They're just because there is a whole issue of recognizing tribes, and as we talked about before, San Francisco doesn't even recognize the Ohlone or the Miwok here. So
right, the Ohlone are indigenous to San Francisco, and all of the missions built in San Francisco were built by Indian slaves for the most part, and a lot of people don't know that history.
So there's definitely exclusion as far as mineral rights, land rights. The same rights that are guaranteed to tribes who are recognized, and there's definitely exclusion going on locally. But I feel like the environmental movement can make strides, make steps forward by still including Ohlone folks that aren't federally recognized. Like, hey, invite Rose, the chairman of Ohlone, to come out anyways and speak. Invite people in the Miwok Council to come out and speak. Invite some of the Pomo folks to come out and speak. These are all the local tribes that are our reservation's an hour away. So it's good to be here representing SNAG, but I feel like the environmental movement makes some steps forward by inviting some folks to come out and be a part of this.
Where can people pick up the magazine?
The magazine's available on our website, snagmagazine.com, and I'm also a musician. I have a new album. It's called "You Forgot About Us."
Oh, nice!
And I'm gonna give you a copy.
Thank you. We'll play it on the show.
Listen to KLX, or KLW.
KLW.
And you can hear it there as well.
All right, thank you so much. Ras K'dee is editor-in-chief of SNAG Magazine, 7th Native American Generation. Thanks a lot.